Imagine you're just scrolling on your phone, you take a quick, simple personality quiz on social media, and boom, you've just inadvertently triggered one of the single largest data privacy scandals in digital history. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are unpacking the entire Facebook and Cambridge Analytica affair, an event that literally changed how all of us view our personal information online. We're going to rely strictly on the verified timeline and official documentary evidence here to understand exactly how an ordinary built-in platform feature led to a massive social media data privacy failure. Let's dive right in.
87 million. That is how many users had their personal data swept up in 2018. 87 million. But here's the really wild part. Most of those people, they never actually agreed to it. And yet they hadn't been hacked in the traditional sense either. There was no stolen password, no malicious actor typing away in a dark basement somewhere, no secure system that was forcibly broken into. The mechanics of this breach were entirely different and honestly a whole lot more surprising. See, it didn't happen through some shadowy hacker. It started with a harmless-looking personality quiz app built by an academic researcher. The data was collected through a feature the platform itself had built on purpose. It was functioning exactly as designed. But the information gathered by that quiz app was then passed along to a political consulting firm that most everyday users had literally never even heard of. This incredibly simple flow, from a fun, silly quiz straight to a massive political consulting operation, set the stage for one of the most complex data privacy investigations in the history of social media.
Okay, let's get into Section 1, the data privacy breach.
Now, the data's journey actually crossed the globe, and its geographical footprint is fascinating to map out. It all began over in the United Kingdom, specifically in Cambridge, which makes sense, right? That's where the researcher and his company, Global Science Research, were based. The data then moved down to London, which was the headquarters for Cambridge Analytica and its parent group. From there, the operational and legal shockwaves crossed the Atlantic Ocean to the United States, crashing straight into Facebook's headquarters in Menlo Park, California, and eventually, the whole thing landed squarely on the desks of regulators and Congress in Washington, D.C.
Moving right along to Section 2, timeline and documentary evidence. To truly grasp how this happened, we have to look at the chronological sequence of events. Back in 2013, a University of Cambridge researcher named Alexander Kogan built an app called This Is Your Digital Life. It presented itself to users as just a simple personality quiz. Fast forward a bit to 2014, and the platform actually changed its rules to stop apps from accessing friends' data in this exact manner. But it wasn't until a year later, in 2015, that the company stated it learned of the data misuse and demanded Cambridge Analytica delete the information. However, the explosive, full-scale reality of the situation didn't hit the public until 3 whole years later in 2018. So how did a quiz reach so many people? Well, because of a built-in platform loophole. The multiplier effect of this data collection was absolutely massive. Think of it like a giant digital net. Around 270,000 to 305,000 people installed Kogan's app and were paid small amounts of money to complete the quiz. But at the time, the platform's rules allowed an app to collect data not only from the person using it, but also from that person's friends. So those 300,000 paid quiz takers basically brought all their friends' data along for the ride. That is exactly how an app used by relatively few people pulled in data from an estimated 87 million accounts. Regulators in both the US and the UK confirmed this monumental transfer happened entirely without clear or informed consent. As you can imagine, the financial and operational fallout was immediate, and frankly, it was staggering. On March 17, 2018, The Observer in London and The New York Times published detailed accounts based on evidence from a former Cambridge Analytica employee named Christopher Wiley. He detailed how the data was gathered to build psychological profiles of voters. Within just days of this publication hitting the newsstands, over $100 billion was completely erased from Facebook's market value. By April, the company's chief executive was testifying before the United States Congress, and by May 2018, Cambridge Analytica had filed for bankruptcy. The whole thing just unraveled.
Before we move on, if you're enjoying this story or finding it helpful or entertaining, please subscribe and hit the like button. It helps bring more stories like this to the channel.
All right, let's look at Section 3, evaluating the verified theories. To stay entirely objective here, we have to look at the 3 primary reported theories used to evaluate the motives and mechanics behind this breach. Now, I want to be clear. These are framed strictly as analytical perspectives, not as absolute universally settled facts. They include election influence, platform design failure, and overstated effectiveness. Let's break down exactly what each of these theories proposes.
So, Theory 1 is election influence.
Some accounts hold that the harvested data was used to influence the 2016 United States presidential election and the United Kingdom's European Union membership referendum through targeted political messaging. This was pretty much the central claim in all the early reporting. However, and this is a big however, this remains an unproven theory because no regulator or court has ever established that the data actually changed the outcome of any vote. Plus, Cambridge Analytica explicitly denied that the researchers' data was used in the United States presidential campaign. Moving on to Theory 2, platform design failure. The real shocker here? This wasn't a glitch. The system functioned exactly as designed at the time. The United Kingdom's data regulator found that the platform's design inherently allowed developers to reach users' information and their friends' information without clear and informed consent. Under this view, the event was way less about a single rogue actor breaking into a secure system and much more about ordinary platform features quietly exposing data right under users' noses. Finally, we have Theory 3, overstated effectiveness. This third perspective is basically an analytical inference. It's the idea that the firm vastly exaggerated its own effectiveness. In short, yes, the data harvesting was real, and the massive failure of user consent was definitely real, but the actual ability to reliably change voters' minds through psychographic profiling? Actually, scratch that. That mind control marketing might have been mostly just hype, purely crafted to sell their expensive consulting services. Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Record Penalties and Settlements. Look at the incredible contrast in the financial aftermath here. In October 2018, the United Kingdom leveled its absolute maximum fine allowed under their law at the time, which was £500,000. But across the Atlantic, the United States Federal Trade Commission slammed down a historic, staggering $5 billion penalty. That came alongside a 20-year set of strict privacy requirements and independent oversight. Adding to the unprecedented consequences, Facebook's parent company Meta later agreed to pay $725 million in a separate class action. An appeals court actually upheld that settlement in 2025, officially making it the largest data privacy class action recovery in United States history. As for Cambridge Analytica itself, well, the firm completely collapsed and no longer operates. A central thread really runs through all of the official findings we've unpacked today. Regulators universally concluded that users were deeply misled. The systems functioned flawlessly according to their own designs, but the users themselves were left completely in the dark. It leaves all of us with a critical, lingering question as we navigate our daily digital lives. Did users ever really have control over their own information to begin with? Thank you for hanging around until the end. If you want to see more documented deep dives, hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next one.